The opposite of courage in our society is not cowardice, it is conformity. Discipline is the rebellion against conformity. And yet most of your life, you've been told the opposite, that discipline is chains, while freedom is doing whatever you want. But look closer, that so-called freedom is not freedom at all. It is chaos wearing a mask of liberty. Think of the mornings you hit snooze, the evenings you numbed yourself with endless scrolling, the promise to change tomorrow. Each moment felt harmless, even deserved. But over time, the illusion rotted the foundation. What looked like freedom became a prison with invisible walls. This is the myth of freedom without discipline, a hollow comfort that leads to long-term decay. Without structure, you don't rise, you drift. And drifting always takes you somewhere you never meant to go. Carl Jung once said, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." Discipline is the root that digs deep. It is not punishment. It is the bridge that carries you across the abyss of chaos toward who you are meant to become. Avoiding discipline feels like safety, but in truth, it is betrayal. When you reject discipline, you reject growth. You refuse the path that could have made you whole. What you call freedom is often self-abandonment, a surrender to the shadow that rules unseen. And here is the painful mirror. You already know this. You know the exact nights you gave in to comfort instead of pushing forward. You remember the times you avoided the work, excused yourself with stories, and then quietly hated yourself for it. These are not small mistakes. They are self-inflicted wounds. You cannot lie to yourself anymore. The shadow remembers everything you've avoided, and it waits silently until you face it. Without discipline, there is no freedom. Without discipline, there is only decay. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Jung's words slice to the core. You think you are choosing rest, comfort, love. But what you often choose is escape. Comfort is clever. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It tells you, you've worked hard, you deserve to take it easy. It strokes your ego with false kindness. But this voice is not your friend. This voice is the shadow wearing perfume, making chains smell like flowers. Each time you listen, you sink deeper into stagnation. You call it self-care, but it is slow decay. Think of how easily you buy into the lie. One more episode, one more drink, one more day of delay. It feels like kindness in the moment, yet every yes to false. Comfort is a no to your future self. It feels like a blanket, but it is a coffin. Real rest restores you. This kind of comfort empties you. You know the difference when you wake up in the morning. True rest brings clarity. False comfort brings shame. This is how stagnation disguises itself as love. And what about the toxic romance with escape? You stay loyal to your distractions, like people stay loyal to abusive lovers. They hurt you, but they're familiar. Scrolling late at night, overeating, running from hard conversations. They harm you, yet you return. Because in the moment, they soothe. They kiss your wounds while keeping them open. You trade your respect for a fleeting embrace. You promise yourself you'll break it off, but the pull is magnetic. Like a toxic partner, escape always pretends to protect you while secretly eroding the self you long to become. Jung warned that what you avoid controls you. Discipline is terrifying because it exposes the shadow. When you commit to order, you come face to face with the chaos you've hidden. That is why avoidance feels safer. It spares you the confrontation. But in truth, avoidance deepens the wound. The shadow grows darker in silence. Every time you refuse discipline, you hand power to the very part of you that wants you small, broken, and scattered. Facing discipline is not about punishment. It is about meeting the shadow head-on, no longer letting it choose your path in secret. You see now, what you thought was love has been betrayal. What you thought was safety has been sabotaged. False. Comfort is not love. False escape is not care. They are chains wrapped in velvet. And the longer you cling to them, the further you drift from yourself. Reject the false love of comfort. Embrace the discipline that heals. Till you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Jung's warning is not theory. It is your reality. The choices you think are yours are often made by wounds you never healed. You say you avoid discipline because you don't want the stress, but deeper than that, you fear the sting of shame that once came attached to it. You flinch, not because of the work itself, but because your body remembers the punishment, the rejection, the disapproving faces from childhood. To you, discipline feels like a cage, when in truth, it is the key. As a child, maybe discipline was not guidance but humiliation. Maybe every mistake was met with criticism so sharp it carved scars inside you. Or maybe love was conditional. You were valued only when you performed perfectly. In that world, discipline did not feel like care. It felt like rejection waiting to happen. And so, as an adult, you avoid discipline the way a burned hand avoids the flame. You think you are protecting yourself, but you are really protecting the wound. The shadow carries the memory, and every time you try to rise, it whispers, "Don't, it will hurt again." Jung wrote that what you resist not only persists, it grows stronger. The shadow is a saboteur that thrives on silence. Every avoided workout, every abandoned project, every half-kept promise, these are not neutral decisions. They are your wounds pulling the strings. The moment discipline calls, the shadow answers first. It whispers excuses that sound reasonable. "I'll do it tomorrow. I need to rest. It doesn't really matter." But beneath the excuses lies the same old wound saying, "Stay small, stay safe. Don't risk rejection." The shadow isn't saving you, it is stealing your future one decision at a time. Look around your own life. How many times have you skipped the gym, not because your body was broken, but because your spirit feared the effort? How many times have you avoided a hard conversation, not because it was impossible, but because you couldn't face the sting of disapproval? How often have you sabotaged relationships, jobs, or even your health because the wound convinced you it was easier to escape? These are not choices. They are patterns. They are trauma dressed up as logic, pain disguised as preference. You call it free will, but it isn't freedom. It is the unconscious directing your life while you pretend you are in control. And every time you avoid discipline, you confirm the shadow's prophecy that you are too weak, too broken, too wounded to rise. But here is the truth. You were never too weak. You were just unaware. The shadow was chosen for you. And now, you are learning to choose for yourself. Your wounds are not your masters. Discipline is the key to reclaiming your freedom. Man cannot stand a meaningless life. Jung understood the quiet collapse that happens when discipline is abandoned. You think you're escaping pain by avoiding structure, but what you are really escaping is yourself. Slowly, choice by choice, you begin to crumble. Each time you betray your word, skipping the workout, breaking the promise, silencing your ambitions, you chip away at your own reflection. Self-respect doesn't vanish in an explosion. It erodes like stone underwater. You wake up and feel powerless, not because the world has taken your strength, but because you surrendered it piece by piece. At first, you barely notice. A little procrastination, a little indulgence. But soon, the mirror turns cold. You don't trust yourself anymore. And when you don't trust yourself, the entire structure of your identity begins to fall. On the outside, you still wear the mask. You smile when people ask how you're doing. You say, "I'm fine," as if the words can build a wall against the storm inside. But the mask is thin. Behind it lies the shame of wasted time, the guilt of promises unkept, the emptiness of days lived in avoidance. You play the role of a functioning adult, but inside, you feel hollow. The act exhausts you. And every night when the mask comes off, you are left face to face with the truth. You are not fine. You are collapsing in silence. And then comes the fragmentation. Jung warned that avoidance splits the psyche. When you refuse to confront discipline, your inner world begins to scatter. Thoughts lose coherence, desires contradict each other. You feel like pieces of a person rather than a whole being. Anxiety floods in because nothing holds you together. Depression seeps through because meaning has slipped away. Without discipline, the self becomes a broken mosaic, fragments that no longer form a picture. You feel disconnected from your past, uncertain about your future, and trapped in a present that feels like quicksand. This is the price of avoidance. Not just wasted time, not just lost potential, but the collapse of who you are. Discipline is not a burden, it is the glue of identity. Without it, the structure falls, and you are left wandering through the ruins of yourself. Without discipline, the self shatters. With it, you become whole. You are what you do, not what you say you'll do. Those words expose the quiet lie you've lived under. You thought comfort was love. You thought indulgence was kindness. You thought escape was care. But none of it was love. It was poison, disguised as sweetness. It left you weaker, not stronger. Every time you avoided discipline, you told yourself it was mercy, when it was actually betrayal. You weren't protecting yourself, you were abandoning yourself. That warm blanket of comfort did not heal you, it smothered you. Real self-love looks nothing like the escape you've practiced. Jung insisted that individuation, the process of becoming whole, requires facing the truth and carrying the weight of discipline. Care without challenge is not care at all. To truly love yourself is to demand growth, to build structures that integrate your scattered pieces into a unified self. True care is not indulgence, it is responsibility. It is waking up on time, doing the hard thing, keeping promises, honoring the shadow without letting it rule. Real love does not keep you small, it calls you into strength. So the story must flip. Discipline is not the enemy you feared. It is the ally that has been knocking at your door, the one who wants to build you back up, the one who can return your strength, your freedom, your identity. Discipline is the hand that steadies you when chaos surges. It is the light that cuts through the shadow, and once you see it clearly, you will never confuse betrayal for love again. Discipline is the highest form of self-love. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. Jung's words call you to the battlefield within. The time has come to stop running from the dark voice in your head. That voice that whispers, "You'll fail anyway. Why bother? You're not enough." You've spent years trying to drown it out with distractions, but denial only made it stronger. To face the shadow is to sit in silence, hear the lies it speaks, and refuse to let them rule. You look it in the eye and say, "I see you. I know where you come from, but you do not own me." This is the first act of empowerment, honesty. No more pretending, no more escape. Discipline then becomes more than effort. It becomes integration. Each ritual, each practice, each commitment is a thread that sews the split self back together. When you wake up early despite the temptation to sleep, you stitch the conscious and unconscious closer. When you keep a promise to yourself, you remind the shadow that it no longer decides for you. Discipline is not repression. It is reconciliation. It is the bridge where your wounds meet your strength. Each small act is alchemy, turning chaos into order, turning fear into focus. Jung called this individuation, the long journey of becoming whole, where every fragmented part of you is invited into the circle and given a rightful place, and you are not alone in this. Look at the modern warriors of the psyche, the man who chooses recovery over addiction, showing up day after day to face cravings and shadows. The woman who builds her business brick by brick, confronting the voice that says she is unworthy. The one who heals after heartbreak, resisting the urge to collapse, and instead using discipline to create a new life. These are not mythical heroes. They are people like you, people who chose discipline as their weapon against the shadow. The path is not glamorous. It is daily, often unseen, often uncelebrated. But every act of discipline is a declaration. I will not abandon myself again. Through discipline, you turn wounds into wisdom, shadows into strength. You no longer fight the dark parts of yourself. You command them. You stand whole, no longer divided, no longer powerless. Discipline is not chains. Discipline is the sword that cuts through the shadow and makes you whole. Freedom is nothing else but a chance to be better. These words remind you of the paradox you've been running from. You thought discipline was chains, but it was chaos that enslaved you. Every time you gave in to impulse, you lost control. Every time you avoided the hard path, you surrendered your freedom to the shadow. Real freedom is not doing whatever you feel. It is no longer being ruled by feelings. When you submit to discipline, you stop being a prisoner of impulse. You rise above urges, habits, and addictions. That is when you taste true freedom. Without discipline, the inner world is a battlefield. The mind shouts in 100 directions. Guilt and shame clash with desire and distraction. Every day feels like war. You wake up tired, not from work, but from the torment of being pulled apart. But with discipline, the noise softens, the mind clears, your steps become steady. Instead of being torn by chaos, you stand in the calm of order. Jung taught that peace is found not in escape, but in alignment. When your inner world is no longer fragmented, but whole. Discipline is what aligns you. It is the anchor that steadies the storm. So now the choice is clear. You cannot serve both chaos and peace. You cannot love both the shadow's lies and the discipline that saves you. Every moment you are choosing one or the other. And the path is simple, though never easy. Choose discipline, choose peace. Choose yourself. Choose peace over chaos. Choose discipline.